These are the Pokemon Nintendo doesn't want you to catch. These are the dirty, stinking bootleg Pokemon cards. Isn't that a lovely fan? Bootlegs of Pokemon cards is still a booming business today, but to start off I thought I'd show you guys some earlier bootlegs of some Wizards of the Coast era cards. There are a lot of different types of these Pokemon bootleg cards, even with just what I have here. I also got 4 bootleg booster packs of the Team Rocket set, these 2 being of the realish variety, and these 2 being of the, shall we say, less subtle bootleg variety. It's only with my keen observational skills that I noticed there was something up with these 2 packs versus the 2 that, looked legit. So if you live somewhere where they might actually sell bootleg packs, yet in some cases they do make it fairly hard for you. Just about everything on these ones looks like a legit Team Rocket booster pack. They've even got the Nintendo seal of quality, so you know they're legit, and the Wizards of the Coast logo along with the old website. The best way to tell something screwy is going on with these types of packs is just the text clarity, as it always won't be as clear as it should be. I can see clearly now, the trademarks are here. Dumb. But even then, they aren't consistent that way either, and some of them look pretty clear. But these type of packs are where it's at, and you want to know why? They're Edition 2! You guys all remember the Extremely Real Edition 2, right? They were so much better than Edition 1 because they were the Y run of the cards. There was Base Set 2, that was a thing, but Edition 2, not as much. And it's possible a Base Set 2 pack is where they ripped this Mewtwo artwork from, since it was also featured on one of those. But as far as I know, there was never a pack that featured this Meowth artwork, and they just ripped that from the Team Rocket Meowth card. This pack was originally purchased at a thank you for $3.90. I feel like Sucker should have been on there somewhere as well. They still did the minimum stuff to try and make these things look legit by keeping the Nintendo seal and the Wizards of the Coast logo, but they didn't do quite as expert a job on the expert level logo. Also, these packs tell a much more bootleggy story than the other ones. They recreate this little Team Rocket is on the loose thing, but they almost have it on the side of the package on this one, and forget that little thing of capital letters. But here's where it really gets good. The number of criminal indents involving Pokemon has been on the rise. Some suggest it may have something to do with the rash of Pokemon kidnappings that have been occurring recurrently. Guys, you're already bootlegging the story on the other packs. Was it really that hard to copy? Oh, who even knows if it was the same people? But they were made in the USA. That is true as fuck. Now, before I delve into the cards from those packs, I'd like to talk about a few Pocket Monsters bootlegs I have. So obviously this one type here is smaller than a real card should be, it's got a lighter background, and it's missing the copyrights at the bottom. These ones are actually closer in size to those strange stickers of Pocket Monsters cards, though they aren't as pretty or terrifying. Some of these cards, however, did keep the copyright info at the bottom, so are a little harder to pick out. Again, the best way to tell with something like this is how clear the text at the bottom is. Both the smaller than usual cards are pretty easy to tell aren't legit from besides their size, especially as the Rocket Set Dragonite here is supposed to be a holo. And the clarity of the text on these makes it pretty easy to tell that these are a less than perfect copy. Almost all of these Pocket Monster bootleg cards I have also have a much glossier coating than the real cards do. There's obvious color difference going on here if you compare some of these next to their English version. However, since the Japanese ones have a different coloring than the English ones, that's not the best thing to go by. So unfortunately, most of the Pocket Monsters bootleg cards I have are trainer cards. But you can still see a few interesting things from the bootleggers here, like the really inconsistent color on these. and super quality. No, you're not going cross-eyed, I promise. The card really does look that bad. I also got a couple bootlegs of these type of Pokemon cards, which are the exact same size as the slightly smaller than usual Pocket Monsters bootlegs. And these two are bootlegs of these Topps Pokemon cards. You could get shiny variants of any card in this set, but I'm willing to bet all the bootlegs were shiny. And as you can see, they're slightly smaller than these types of cards as well, and the font for the number of Pokemon is slightly changed. And actually, none of these fonts are exactly what they're supposed to be. It looks like the bootleggers just tried to recreate the backs of these type of cards as best they could. But you'll notice on this one, they took out the Nintendo and Topps logo and all of the copyright information. And they haven't quite mastered the non-awkward line break. But I am really glad that these cards did really tell you Ash hasn't seen this yet. They get a little ridiculous with this though when they say how rare a Golduck is. A Golduck has not yet been seen in the wild by Ash, or any other Pokemon trainers for that matter. Who cares if Mew's under the truck? I'm just hoping there's a Golduck under there. Oh, and just so you know, a Ninetales evolves from a Vulpabluck. So, as some of you might know, it's quite likely you won't even get the set they promise on some of these bootleg packages. So, what else should we expect from the Team Rocket package but Fossil? These cards, by the way, are completely different feeling than any of the other Pokemon bootleg cards I got. These ones are much like most of the Pocket Monster bootleg cards I have. They're extremely glossy. And with this type, besides just feeling wrong immediately, you can notice how much more bright purple the bootleg is compared to a real card. I can at least give it to them that these ones don't feel cheap, but you can tell there's something immediately wrong with how glossy they look and feel. And even though these ones are fairly well done, you can still see some text clarity issues versus a real card. But at least these are all first edition like the package promised. I would have felt pretty ripped off if my stupid overly glossy bootleg Pokemon cards weren't first edition. It's worth so much more. The card that really stands out with this bootleg type is its holo. Look at this, they even spell the Pokemon's name right. Or this is just a good example of how different the coloring is because of how they did the foil. And the reason the coloring is a bit off on this holo card is because the holo foil actually is going across the whole card. That's why you can even see the seams of the holo foil on the edges of the card. Before we get to one of these other packs, let's talk about some of the loose ones I have. Why? Because I want to. Here we have Electrode from Neo Genesis, which is quite a feat as Electrode wasn't released in that set. So in actuality, this is Electrode from Jungle. I guess the bootleggers just thought it'd be a bit snazzier if they updated the set it was in. And it's always nice when a holo card is reverted to a regular card, though he does sort of make up for it with 680 HP. So if it wasn't obvious enough, you can clearly see where they changed something here, with the number being much clearer than the HP. They've also slightly increased the attack damage of Chain Lightning from 20 to 200. Is that really how much that attack does? I get the sense you might be cheating. My favorite change, though, is this nonsensical one for Tackle. They changed how much energy it takes to do it from 2 colorless to 4, but kind of forgot to put any damage or effect done by the move. That's just some of the pure awesome you get, though, with Edition 2. See, look at this non-Edition 2 Hitmonchan. His attacks do the correct damage, no overblown HP, garbage. And there's kind of the fact that Hitmonchan was always a holo in the base set. Ones like this are a little tougher to spot what's wrong on the backside, unlike the obvious purple ones, but they still have their tails. You can see that the border is still slightly more purple than real Pokemon cards here. Also, it looks like they blew out the contrast a bit on the Pokeball, so you lose a little bit of detailing that used to be there. And the Edition 2 assholes make it pretty simple to spot the differences on the backside by having the border darker than a real Pokemon card and having the inside picture more faded than a real one. Here we've got a bootleg of Holo base set Wigglytuff. Again, only one problem with that, Wigglytuff wasn't in base set. This Wigglytuff is supposed to be from Jungle, but there were actually error cards printed that forgot the Jungle logo, so this is a bootleg of an error card. I kinda love that. You can also see that the holo foil pattern actually goes through the whole card ever so slightly with Wigglytuff. But here's what you've all been waiting for, Professor Oak Trainer Card Bootleg. And here's what you've always wanted to know about this bootleg. The Professor Oak on it looks more like the Japanese one than the English one, but the background color doesn't match either of them. What? Also, this is one of the best examples of the stupid blurry text thing, as it's so bad here you almost can't read it. Neo Genesis, aka Team Rocket, Abra. Well, nothing wrong here. They probably just felt like powering up Psyshock, a little since base set. Also, that Abra is high as fuck. Come on, give me that one. But screw your measly high HP, Abra. Meowth here with his 720. Neo Rockasys Meowth is the best. Meowth party! Fucking chug, bitch! I can't! It's my last one! Unfortunately for Super Health Meowth, if altering the damage of an attack requires more than just changing the large number at the side, they forget to do it. But hey, at least now it takes 6 energy instead of 2 to do Coin Hurl. That's a bonus, right? Now here's the other kind of amazing thing about these Edition 2 cards. As Neo Genesis was the first set to include Generation 2 Pokemon, these ones did as well. But it seems like they put these out either just as Neo Genesis was coming out in Japan or slightly before. So these bootleg cards don't use the actual artwork the real Neo Genesis counterpart did. And their names, instead of being their English ones, are just an attempted romanization of their Japanese name. So in some places where they use an R, you might typically see an L on the romanization of that Pokemon's name. Also, Neo Genesis introduced Steel and Dark types to the Pokemon card game, which they are clearly missing here. Also, they make it kinda obvious that they just took these Pokemon and slapped them over another Pokemon's card. So apparently you should always play Sneasel, aka Neura, in tandem with Mr. Mime. Sneasel Neura is also kind of the worst holo foil card I've seen from the bootleggers, since the pattern is almost covered up by the background. Also kind of interesting, you can tell this is the same star pattern used for the holo foil as the Wigglytuff bootleg. The art used for some of these Generation 2 Pokemon looks particularly strange as well, like Skarmory, aka Iamudo here, who, by the way, evolves from Rhyhorn. I didn't know that. I wonder if a Magikarp was swapped out with Mooma, aka Misdrevious. They could have at least gone with a psychic one to replace it with, though the picture they have of Misdrevious is particularly blue, so maybe that threw them off. And this is why Misdrevious can't actually learn Flop in the games. It'd be far too powerful. And it can do damage just by evolving. That's a new one. But here's maybe the stupidest random type they went with. Bayleaf or Berryfu is a fire type. Really, guys? Really? You got fire from that. It evolves from Charmander, though. Wait a second, what does Dark Charmeleon have to do with this? And this card is 153 out of 82. Wow, what a completely real fraction. And much like Electrode's 4 energy tackle, you get a 4 energy tail slap that does, I don't know. At least they were really consistent with the font on their upped damage attacks. Its tail is incredibly strong, able to lift up 5 adult men! I'll, take your word for that. Oh, and don't worry, Generation 2 Pokemon aren't the only ones that get to have some random type fun here. At least this fire-type Gyarados that evolves from Ponyta is on a fiery background. And it can do Stomp! With those legs it has. And here's my electric-type Mewtwo, which I have a strong feeling might really be this Zapdos for some reason. Though, interestingly, they added a weakness, because we all know having a weakness is better than not having one, and they made it fighting, which is also what it resists, so it does normal damage, I guess? Funny enough, odd-type Pokemon like this was something that was actually done a bit later on with the Delta species, but the bootleggers beat them to it. Now let's Strange Mewtwo pack it up and... oh my god, guys. Super energy removal. I am shitting myself with excitement on that one. Here we've got an overpowered Edition 2 Dark Golduck with its super legit 6 energy placement to do Super Psy. And then we got Magikarp, who does 150 damage flops. Well, I suppose Magikarp is the flop master, though it doesn't cause damage from evolution like Misdrevious. Maintenance. Darker. Potion? Holy fuck, this is the best pack ever. And look, the potion is slightly more zoomed in than the real one. That is so much more exciting than mistyped overpowered Pokemon. So, semi-interestingly, this pack has base set bootlegs with something I don't know if you guys are quite ready for. Line breaks at different words! Oh! I'm sorry. These ones are all the pretty uninteresting differences, unfortunately, though they're all shadowed versus my real unshadowed ones. And kinda surprisingly, this is my only energy bootleg, though that's a nice surprise. And holy shit, what is this? An actual rocket card from one of these rocket packs? Well, the Meowth pack is starting us off with some nicer goodies than the Mewtwo one. Another overpowered Pokemon, and yes, still using that same star holofoil background. We also got overpowered Dark Golbat. I love Edition 2 so much. Dark Weezing, who might be trying to hide his overpowered damage from you. Well, we've got Edition 2 throwing some base set guys into Neo Genesis as well with Electabuzz here. And overpowered Machoke with its clear contradiction on its move. I don't want stupid no damage Chankle again. I do want him again though. I can never have enough bootleg Meowths. Alright, here we go. Another G2 Pokemon disaster, this time with Blissey. Or as she's known when she evolves from Eevee, Happinasu. Yeah, it was really tricky to figure out which Pokemon this one evolved from. I see why they got confused. At least it's 3 times weak and 3 times resistant to fighting. And it costs 3 energy to retreat. Man, that's good! Also, that's totally how they write out extra resistance on the cards. Next, we got Fighting type Suicune, or Suicune, because it evolves from Cubone. This is another one like the Skarmory that looks particularly odd. I wonder where they even got this artwork from. Alright, last pack, and these ones of course aren't from Team Rocket either, but as a change, they're not from Neo Genesis. These ones instead decide to say they are from the Gym set, using the logo for those that was only used in Japan. And this wide load Noctowl is Your runes and this one seems to be one they at least put a little more effort than usual in, since it's based on an onyx, but they actually changed the moves some, with a particularly strange energy placement and dig under and scratch. These are also the first ones I've come across in these sets that are overpowered yet are still labeled Edition 1. Then we've got our holo of Croconaw, a middle stage Pokemon, so that usually doesn't happen. Or as it's known when it evolves from Dark Dragonair, Atreyu! And it looks like whatever they cut this artwork out from, it had a white backdrop, which made them accidentally cut out Croconaw's eye, too. Whoops. And yes, once again, it's the lovely holo foil star backdrop. More oddball artwork for a Girafarig that evolves from a Zubat. And this one sorta reminds me of Dark Golbat, though it's got extra weakness, and also its attack that does 20 damage does 90 damage. And here's a Ledian, or as this card lets us know, it's really a Redian. Also, it's a carnivore that swallows its prey whole. Pidgeys and Spearows are its favorite food. Holy fuck, stay away from ladybugs, which are also partially snakes. And now we have normal type Gengar. Also, guess what? This Gengar doesn't evolve from anything. Then it's overpowered Matai! And once again, we get to flip our L's and R's with Rediba. I kind of love that they decided these two weren't even the same type, and they decided the basic Pokemon was one that evolved from something, and the evolved Pokemon was a basic Pokemon. But at long last, it's time for Pikachu's evolution to get some love. Wait a second, Raichu, you get out of here. Here's Pikachu's real evolution, Chaunchie. And then we get Pokemon just slapped on trainer cards too. This trainer card is supposed to be Rocket Sneak Attack, but someone slapped a Natu on it because they either didn't know or care what they were doing. And now it's my absolute favorite one that I saved for last. Grass-type Mewtwo. This is one of those rare Mewtwo's you could get by evolving a Bellsprout, much like you could evolve a Magikarp into a Mew. But of course, neither are as rare as a Golduck. Grass-type Mewtwo is just so much better than Electric or Psychic-type Mewtwo. Why? Because you get two of them mirrored holding a giant Pokeball! What the fuck is that? That's definitely more fucked up and creative than Electric Mewtwo, so I like it a lot more. Though the only downside with Grass Mewtwo is it's not resistant to the same thing it's weak to. As I looked at a few different card types, obviously the quality varies slightly, but they all for the most part weren't overly cheap. Some had that strange glossiness to them, but they were still decent cards, it's just they don't feel like real ones. The slightly smaller Pocket Monsters ones, though, were definitely the worst and cheapest feeling. Coloring and centering issues would also pop up, but the biggest quality problem was the text clarity. Most have that kind of imperfect copy look to them, which makes sense since that's exactly what they are. This would also make their changes to certain cards more obvious, cause the new text would be a lot crisper. 7. I do love the stupid thought someone had of pretending 2nd edition was a thing, and they even made up their own colorful Team Rocket packs for those. I still wonder if anyone actually ever got away with playing these overpowered Pokemon versus someone's regular cards. Cause, you know, it would seem a bit obvious, and this only got worse later on. And if you only played the overpowered guys versus the overpowered guys, you haven't accomplished very much besides raising numbers, now have you? Also, it amuses me greatly that they thought of the strange typed Pokemon before the official game did. I do wonder if they saw some of these and it gave them the idea for the Delta Species cards. Then again, I'm probably giving the bootleggers too much credit, and they probably just lazily slapped on a random Pokemon to whatever card was around to create new ones. 2. You got overpowered Pokemon that evolved from things that they definitely shouldn't, complete type nonsense, and Generation 2 Pokemon that are just slapped onto other Pokemon's cards. This was also so early in Generation 2's life, the best spot for the bootleggers to apparently grab their Art of G2 Pokemon was from a Beckett magazine that featured all these disgusting versions of them. This is probably also where they got the Romanized versions of their names. At least some of them. And almost as strange as the never-seen Golduck is the double grass-type Mewtwo's holding a giant Pokeball. What? 7. The straight-up copy Team Rocket packs aren't nearly as interesting as the Meowth and Mewtwo Rocket Super Color editions. Also, they had a rather lovely Englishy story, which thankfully didn't involve any of those nasty capital letters. 7. Again, obviously, some of these would fit with the real cards better than others. You've got your tells for all of them, though, and you have to be like Ash Ketchum losing with his level 100 Pikachu dumb to fall for the overpowered ones. And from what I can tell, these don't seem to be as flimsy as some of the later on bootleg cards got. 7. And the bootleg zones overall is 7! I was really glad to get some older bootleg Pokemon cards for the show, and these didn't disappoint. They had lots of stupid randomness, and that made me Edition 2 happy.
Okay, and now I'm evolving my Bellsprout to Mewtwo and completely destroying your Zapdos with Razor Leaf!
Okay, seems legit.